Okay, so here we are still talking about forms. The next thing that we're going to talk about in this series is we're going to talk about how to take multiple inputs from a user at one time. So this is the beginning of a selections discussion. So we can either select things where we allow for multiple selection or where we only allow the users to choose one thing. That's called mutually exclusive selection. So in this segment, we're going to focus on multiple selections. So we're going to ask a simple question here. And the question that we're going to ask is we'll do a div tag and we'll say which CS courses have you completed? And we're going to follow that up with a set of inputs where we're going to allow multiple selections. So the standard use for multiple selection in a web page is a checkbox. Radio buttons typically indicate mutually exclusive selection, where you can only choose one of them. Checkboxes typically allow us to select multiple options. So to make a checkbox, we use an input tag, similar to what we were using before, and we're going to specify type equals checkbox. And as always, we'll give it an ID. That ID will be CS1, and we will give it a name, and that name will be CS1 as well. And then we're going to add something when we're doing selections. We're going to make sure that each of our choices has a value attribute. So the value earlier, when we did this before, the value attribute was optional. Now I really think we should have a value so that it helps us send that information along to the page that's going to process it. It's um, still a singleton input tag, and typically the text for a checkbox appears after the box itself. So we're going to do our CS1 there, put a line break, go to our next one, type equals checkbox, ID equals CS2, name equals CS2, the value this time will equal 2. And we'll go with one more input, type equals checkbox, ID equals CS3, name equals CS3, value equals 3. All right, so let's take a look at what this looks like. We'll come over here, we'll see it. And which courses have you completed? And we'll see that we can choose one, all, or none of them just by clicking on them. Clicking submit then sends that information on to the next page. A little pet peeve of mine when I have checkboxes, often when I'm on my phone or if I'm utilizing a screen that doesn't have a computer that doesn't have a mouse like this one where there's just a touchpad. I often really like to have the text available to me be clicked also, as opposing just having to get my finger or my mouse onto this little checkbox. One of the ways that we can do that is to take this label that we've got here and encase it in an actual tag called label. So I'm going to type a label tag, and then we'll close that label tag after it. And we're going to use the for attribute of the label tag, and we're going to set it equal to the ID of the checkbox we want it to affect. So that ID was CS1. And now you'll see when I come over here, when I click on this CS1, it now activates the checkbox. The other thing that I can do, which is an optional attribute in here, is I can use an attribute called checked with a value of checked. And if I do that, then that will automatically be checked when the user hits the page. So, all those sites that we go on to where they say, can we contact you by email or by text? And that's automatically checked. All they're doing is using this checked equals checked attribute inside of their checkbox input tag. All right, so that's one way that we can do our multiple selection. So let's look at let's say which math courses have you completed? And so now we're going to use something new. We're going to use what's called a select element. And so a select element starts like this. It has a closing partner. The select element itself gets the ID, which is going to be math classes. And we're going to give it the name of math classes. And then we're going to say multiple equals multiple. And this piece right here is what makes this select box be multiple choice or a multiple selection where I can select more than one thing. And then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do size equals 3. And that is telling me how many options I'm going to show at one time. Now I go inside the select tag and I write an option tag. That option tag is where we assign the value. So I'm going to assign a value of 1 for math 1. And then we'll write 2 more option tags. Value equals 2 for math 2 and value equals 3 for math 3. So you'll see in this one that things get split up a little bit. Before, when we were doing checkboxes, we did the type, the ID, the name, and the value all in the same thing. Now inside the select, we do the ID and the name and the select tag, and the value goes on each of the individual options. So we'll take a look at this, and you'll see right here that I've got math 1, math 2, math 3. If I just click on any one of them, I can single select them. But some of my other options are to click on one and then control click on another, which allows me individual multiple selection. Or if I click on one and shift click on another, then it selects a range of all elements between those two things. And so those are our options in doing multiple selection. Again, we can use checkboxes over here, or we can use a select set to multiple where we get to show the size or the number of options that we're going to show. If we have more options than the size we have, then these scroll bars will come into effect and they will automatically engage so that the users can scroll through our options.